Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Double Play Podcast. I'm Ryan Donahue, joined here by my one-of-a-kind co-host, Jack Smith. And Jack, season is almost underway. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling so happy right now. Baseball is in, as of right now, 2 days. And when you guys are seeing this, it's going to be tomorrow. Unfortunately, our teams don't play until Friday, but still, we're going to have baseball within the week, within a couple of days. I'm so excited.
Yeah, for me, last night was eventful. I just wanted to mention. So I was watching the national championship game last night. Kansas ended up winning. So I think TCU wins by math because we beat Kansas. We were the last team to beat Kansas. But I'm just sitting there watching the national championship game, and I just hear a loud boom. And our building, my dorm building, was actually struck by lightning. And I got a little souvenir. I got a giant brick from the chimney because the chimney got blown up, and there's like half of the chimney left. But I'm very proud of my brick, and I was just happy to have it. So yeah, that's what happened to me. But as for baseball, so excited. That's going to be all my weekend and the rest of the school year. Don't know if I'll be very productive then, but getting some baseball news that we saw since last time. Austin Meadows kind of surprisingly was traded to the Tigers for Isak Paredes, I believe. And Lance Lynn out for, I think, a month with that knee injury. And then Chris Sale, we heard, is going to be out for a little longer. Anything I'm forgetting before we get into our today's episode?
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to bring up was I know we had to wait a really long time for the lockout, but it seems like it was worth it because we're seeing with this new CBA, the teams are bringing up their prospects. And outside of O'Neal Cruz by the Pirates, who was still left in AAA, everyone's coming up, and it's super exciting. We've got for the Reds already Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. The Mariners called up Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt Jr., Spencer Torkelson, Adley Rutschman when he's healthy will probably be the starting catcher for the Orioles. So super excited because we're getting these prospects in action on opening day. And I think the Rookie of the Year races are going to be better than they've ever been.
Definitely. And today we're getting into our power rankings for the season, our first of the year. We'll probably do one mid-season, then maybe at the end of the season as well, maybe a few more mixed in. But the prospects coming up have a lot to do with our power rankings, and like guys like Bobby Witt. I mean, we think he's going to be a contributor right away, so that maybe bumps up the Royals a little bit, just for example. But without any further ado, Jack, you want to explain how this is going to work and get into our rankings?
So yeah, obviously, I don't think we were going to completely agree on a single list. So what we did is we made our own individual lists and then averaged them out. So added the numbers together, divided by 2. And now we've got this list. We had a couple ties in there, and we'll mention teams that ended up tying based on the number that we gave them. But we came to an agreement on where we would slot them. And so we're going to kind of go through. At the bottom, we'll go through by like 5 at a time, explain to you, why we arranged them in that order, what we think about those teams. Then when we get to the top, we'll go a little bit more in depth about some of the best teams in baseball and find out who we have at number 1. But from 30 to 26, we have the A's in 30th place, the Orioles at 29, Pirates 28, D-backs 27, and the Reds at 26. Do you want to talk about kind of how we decided between the Orioles and the A's, who both tied at 29 and 30?
Yeah, I had the A's at 29. You had them at 30, and then we switched. I had Orioles at 30. I think the only reason I had the A's is because they still have Frankie Montas and Sean Murphy. And I think that's a little bit more than we could say about the Orioles, who I guess Adley's coming up, Cedric Mullins, Mountcastle might hit a decent amount of bombs. But other than that, they were last in pitching ERA, both bullpen and starting pitching. I just don't think they're that good of a team. The A's just suck. I mean, I saw this tweet. It was, can you name 10 players on the A's? And I was trying to do it and I couldn't do it. And
that one's tough.
The A's, I think I got like 7, and then I looked a few up. I remembered them, but like I couldn't name 10 off the top of my head.
What do I get if I can do it?
You get a virtual high five from me.
All right. So Sean Murphy and Frankie Montas, who you just mentioned, Lou Trevino.
Oh, I didn't get that one at the first time.
Jed Lowry, James Caprillion, family friend. You're right. This is kind of hard. Is Tony Kemp still an A?
Yep.
Tony Kemp.
You're missing 2 obvious ones here.
I probably am.
Elvis Andrus, Stephen Piscotty.
Oh yeah. I probably wouldn't have gotten Andrus, but I was going to get Piscotty. Man, Ramon Laureano.
Yeah.
Christian Pache.
There you go. That's 10.
And then Kevin Smith. Well, you gave me Piscotty and Andrus, but I was going to come around to Piscotty. Either way, I think if you're going power rankings wise, I think it's based off momentum. I don't think you can name a team with worse momentum in the entire league than the A's or in all of sports, because they just traded away all their talent. So that was kind of the rationale for putting them at 30. Pirates, D-backs, and Reds. Those are just, some of the worst teams in baseball. The Reds also traded away a lot of their guys, but I still think they've got some good pitching. You've got Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle still, and Jonathan India, who was the rookie of the year last year. Other than that, the roster is a little limited, but I still think that puts them above teams like the D-backs and the Pirates, who, there's Ketel Marte and Brian Reynolds, and we hope Key Brian Hayes is good, but less talent, I think, than the Reds, and the Reds playing in maybe the softest division in the league.
Yeah, you kind of hit it there. We won't spend too much time on them here. Getting our next five, we got the Nationals at 25, Rockies at 24, Royals at 23, the Guardians at 22, and the Tigers at 21. And we had a tie between, it was the Royals and the Rockies. We ended up putting the Rockies ahead, or the Royals ahead rather, just because, a little younger. We've got a little bit more to look forward to in the Royals. And you want to get us in, starting with the Nationals maybe?
Yeah, the Nationals, they were one of the division losers last year, but I just think they've got a little bit more talent than some of the other teams, like the Pirates, like the D-backs, because you got Juan Soto. Juan Soto instantly vaults your team up, and they got Nelson Cruz. They still have Josh Bell. Steven Strasburg's hopefully healthy. And I just think, I don't know, I'm a bigger fan of the Nationals than I think I am of the Pirates and the Reds and the D-backs and those teams down below them.
As for the Nationals, yeah, I wrote down, they capitalized on their window, which is good, great for them. And now their focus is shifting onto their next window. And now you have to make sure you don't waste the rest of Soto's career, and you got to build for your next window around him. And then we got the Rockies. Rockies, they're just not a great team. They got CJ Cron and Chris Bryant. That's something to look forward to for the Rockies, but they're not going to do anything in the NL West in particular. Royals, they got a bright future. They're really young. Give them 2 to 3 years, and they'll be much higher on this list. Guardians, you got J-Ram and Bieber, and that's about it. And there's some other guys who will contribute for them, but just not enough to where they're a playoff team. They're just like a mediocre team at best, I'd say, this season. And finally, the Tigers, they are a very interesting team. They're young. They just got Austin Meadows now with Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez, and with like Torkelson and Riley Green. Who knows what they're going to do this year, but they've fallen at number 21 on our list today.
Yeah, with the Austin Meadows trade, they're pushing the team above them, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I still think putting him at 21 is a safe bet. One of the better managers in the league in AJ Hinch. I like what they did this offseason. We mentioned that in our last episode, offseason winners and losers, which we had trouble getting onto YouTube, the full clip, or the full episode, but there's a clip with our offseason winners and losers, and you can go in the description of that video or go to our Spotify or Apple podcast page to hear the full episode about what we liked about the Tigers offseason. But Eduardo Rodriguez, Baez, Austin Meadows, they're bringing up Torkelson. Hopefully in a month they'll get Riley Green. Akil Badu's still there, and Jonathan Scope, Casey Mize, Jamer Candelario. Like there's good players on that team. I think they clear some of these teams below them because I just think they've got a higher floor than a lot of teams. Maybe the Guardians also, like the Guardians and Tigers are the floor teams of these guys, but they also have, I think, a bright future with Torque and Riley Green.
Yeah, we kind of covered it all there for our 21 through 25 there. Getting into 20 to 16, I guess. We got the Cubs at 20, Rangers at 19, Marlins at 18, Angels at 17, and the Twins at 16. You want to get into this group of teams right here?
Yeah, so like I said, I think the Tigers could be pushing the Cubs, but I still like the Cubs. They were bad last year. They were uncharacteristically bad, but they were trading away a lot of their talent. I like the moves they made this offseason, just like the Tigers, and Stroman bringing in Seiya Suzuki, and they still have some good players on that team. Contreras is still there. Kyle Hendricks is still there. They got some production from the bottom of their rotation. I also like, Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom. I don't think they're going to be quite as good as they were last year, but I still think there's some solid players that are going to be about league average. I think maybe even a little above average. But I still think the Cubs at 20 makes sense. Rangers at 19.5. Again, loved what they did this offseason. Like, this is the area where these teams were at the bottom, but now they've really separated themselves with the signings and the trades they've made. The Marlins, again, I I really like what the Marlins did this offseason, even though it was under the radar, just like the Tigers. And then their starting rotation is going to be filthy. So I think that's where I leave it off. And then we had a tie between the Angels and the Twins, and you can get into that a little bit.
The Angels and the Twins, they're kind of two similar teams in where they'll end up, and kind of where they were last year too. They weren't great teams last year. Angels are getting Trout back. I don't think they got Syndergaard, so they drafted a lot of pitchers, so they have something to look forward to. And I think they're a team that could make a playoff push if Trout and Ohtani really carry them and their pitching does a little bit better. The Twins as well. I mean, we saw them make a ton of moves. They were a winner of this offseason. And those Angels and Twins are two teams that we think are just going to barely miss out of the playoffs, but two teams that we could see in the playoffs with good seasons. So that's the reason we had 16 and 17, and with 12 teams in the playoffs now, that kind of makes a little sense. They're going to be just outside of our, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, top 12 being the playoff teams. I don't know if that's how it lined up for us.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I think that these are two teams that when we're making preseason power rankings, you kind of have to have them here in the middle because we just haven't seen it yet. But there's two teams that with healthy seasons, with production from the players they've brought in, like Syndergaard, like Carlos Correa, and all the moves that the Twins made, could easily vault their way up this list and become pure playoff contenders and hold a spot. And, maybe even compete for their division, like the Angels with a healthy season from Trout, healthy season from Ohtani. I wouldn't rule it out. But right now, I think going into the season, you got to have them at this middle of the pack area.
Absolutely. And I mean, Rangers, Seager and Semien, they're going to be an exciting team, but still don't think they have the pitching to compete for a playoff spot this season, at least. Maybe make some moves next offseason within the next 2 years. You capitalize on those contracts. But yeah, the Marlins also a great rotation. They're another year or two away, I'd say. But they're going to make a huge jump this year. And get into our next five before we start to get into these teams more in depth and one by one. We had the Phillies at 15, Mariners at 14, Cardinals at 13, the Padres at 12, and the Red Sox at 11. And I mean, feel like none of these are super controversial. We averaged them out. A lot of them made a lot of sense where they were, but you want to get into these next five?
Yeah, starting with the Phillies, again, a team that I think you have to have in the middle of the pack because that's what we've seen from them from the last couple seasons, but they also added a lot of pieces and have the potential to hit the crap out of the baseball and raise themselves on this list. But right now, I think 15 makes sense. The Mariners proved that they could have success last year and they got better. So I think 14 makes sense. But I don't think I could push them above the Cardinals or the Padres, who are just two teams I expect to be a little bit better than the Mariners. And we had the Cardinals and Padres tying, ended up putting the Padres above them. I think they have more high-end talent. I think bringing in Bob Melvin, which I forgot to mention in the offseason winners and losers, was one of the better moves of the offseason. But neither of those teams, I think you can put above the Red Sox, who we saw have a lot of postseason success, added Trevor Story. So they are going to definitely compete in that AL East. And right now, I think with the momentum from the postseason, momentum from signing Story, you got to have them above these teams down below who we think can have a lot of success, but the Red Sox have proven it for years.
I'll start from the bottom going down here, or from the top rather. The Red Sox, I mean, people forget they were in the ALCS last year. They lost in 6 to the Astros, but I mean, they made a playoff run and they got better. I mean, they'll still be without Chris Sale, but I assume they'll get him back at some point. Hopefully, if he can stay on track with rehab, who knows? But I mean, they got Story. The offense got better. One of the best infields in baseball. So they're a great team at there. That's why we had them at 11. But we just don't think they're better than the top 10 teams on this list. And Padres, yeah, once they get Tatis back, they probably will be higher on this list. And we could see throughout the season, I assume they will be higher on this list. I have high expectations for the Padres, especially after last year's disappointment. Cardinals have like some questions, I guess. I mean, fire your manager, you get the first year manager now. They're a young team, but they also signed Pujols, still have Wainwright and Yachty. So that's a good mix of young talent and veteran mentorship. So they're a team that hoping to get back in the playoffs again. Mariners, I think they're one year away. Last year was a little bit of fluke, in my opinion. I still think they will get back, but I don't think it's this season. And a lot of young talent there. And Phillies, I mean, good rotation. That you're right. They have that potential to absolutely destroy the ball, and maybe that carries them into the playoffs. But I think with their bullpen, who did get a little bit better, but their bullpen's been historically bad in recent years. With with the bullpen and the bad defense, I don't know if it's enough to get them into the playoffs. They think they probably need to make some more moves, maybe mid-season or off-season to become a playoff team. So we'll see from them. But yeah, that's kind of rounding out our bottom 20 into this list. And yeah, anything more to say before we want to get into this top 10?
Yeah, on the Phillies, I feel like people might have a bad reaction to putting the Phillies right in the middle of the league because I think a lot of people are very excited about the guys they brought in. But I think it's just, you got to remember that this team has been a fourth place team or a third place team in their division for a couple of years now. They even turned a MVP season from Bryce Harper last year into not making the playoffs. So it sometimes doesn't really matter how good your offense is. You got to pitch. And they also had a almost Cy Young season from Zach Wheeler too. So it's about the depth. It's about the defense. It's about the pitching. I think right now the Phillies have to prove their way out of the 15th spot. I think that they will a little bit, whether that's the playoffs or not, still not sure. But I think that's why we have them at 15. And I think it makes a lot of sense. At 10, we can go one by one now. At 10, we have the Houston Astros. They lost Carlos Correa, but they're still a great team. Bregman, Altuve, a ton of pitching within McCullers and Luis Garcia, Framber Valdez. Hopefully they get Justin Verlander back for a full season. The bullpen is still great. Kyle Tucker, I think, has a chance to be an MVP candidate. So a great team still. And I think right now they're the favorites in the AL West. We got them at 10.
This team made a World Series run last year and fell 2 games short. But I mean, they didn't really get all that much worse with other than Correa, of course. They have questions at shortstop now and center field. But other than that, that lineup is very solid. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Altuve, Bregman, Gurriel. But yeah, rotation solid. But yeah, I mean, this team is still a favorites in the AL West, like you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason we're at 10 is because they lose Correa, and we just feel like there's more momentum and promise from this offseason for these next 9 teams. And that leads us into our number 9. We did have a 3-way tie here. So we kind of had to figure this one out. This one was a little tough one. I won't mention who the 3-way tie is until we mention all of them. Just don't want to spoil it there. But at number 9, the 9th best team in baseball right now, we got the Yankees. The Yankees had a little bit of a disappointing offseason, but we still do think they got better. We talked about that in our winners and losers of the offseason last episode. Go check that out. And this is a team that really needs to make not just make the playoffs, but they need to make a playoff run. And that's something that this fan base has been expecting for a while. And I feel like I wouldn't say the window's closing, but we need to see something out of the Yankees soon.
Yeah, I think the reason we had them above the Astros is, I mean, we had the Astros as a division champ, but the AL East is absolutely stacked. And I think we had the Astros as the lowest record of any division champ because I think they'll get pushed by teams like the Mariners and the Angels. But the AL East is going to be a dogfight. The Yankees are in it every year. They're perennially a World Series contender. Yes, or was their off-season disappointing? Yes, it was. But they're still a great team. Judge, Stanton, they've got a whole ton of pitching in Garrett Cole. Hopefully they get Luis Severino back. A lot of names down the board as well. If they get a good season from DJ LeMahieu or Gleyber Torres, anyone on that infield, I think that they could be even better. So still a really good team. They're still going to make a push in the AL East. They're still going to make a push for the playoffs. That's why we had them above the Astros. We did not, however, have them as the best team in New York, as the team we had in 8th. We had to separate the tie a little bit, but that was the New York Mets. The Mets might have been a little bit higher on this list had they not had to deal with injuries recently from DeGrom and Scherzer, which bumped them down the power rankings a little bit. Like, I don't think it really bumps them down the rankings of how we think that they profile as a team, but power rankings kind of takes into our predictions as well as momentum in the moment. So just lost DeGrom for over a month, going to have to get knocked down a little bit, but I think they're definitely a playoff team. I would say they got better than any team this offseason with the additions they made. So a tremendous team. And I just think right now on paper, they're a better team than the Yankees. And I think they have an easier division as well.
Yeah, that NL East is going to be fun to watch down the stretch if DeGrom stays healthy. That battle between the Braves and Mets, I think that's going to be a battle to the finish in terms of who wins that division. But yeah, injuries hurt them on the power rankings. But I mean, they're a team that seems like they need to make a playoff run as well. I mean, Steve Cohen went all in with this Mets team, signed a lot of guys, a lot of additions this offseason. They were one of the bigger winners of the offseason. And so I really think they have high hopes. If they get healthy, they're a team that can make some noise in the NL and the NL East, and they could potentially win the NL East. And the last team in our tie, we put them at 7, was your San Francisco Giants. And this might surprise some Giants fans a little bit. I mean, I feel like this is where we've seen a lot of them if you've been paying attention to power rankings at all. But Giants, I mean, they're still a team that won 107 games last year, and all they lost was Gosman, and they replaced him with Carlos Rodon. So, I mean, that's very similar. And I do think they take a step back in terms of the production they got from guys. But, I mean, there's still that 107-win team. Gabe Kapler did a great job last year, and that's why we got them coming in at number 7.
Yeah, I think momentum is a big part of this ranking as well for the Giants, because they came off the best season in baseball. And yeah, I would agree. I think that they will take a step back, but we have yet to see it. So I don't think we can really knock them thus far, like going into the season.
We're in a little disagreement of how big of that step back is going to be.
That's also true. I don't think it's going to be huge. I still knocked them a lot of games, but I still think they're a playoff team. I think I still had them as the number 1 wild card in the NL. Don't have them winning the West again, but after last season, I think this is a very fair ranking, number 7 for the Giants. The team just above them, who I don't know, I think it's debatable, is the Milwaukee Brewers. We averaged them out. They were just a little bit ahead of the Giants, the Mets, and the Yankees. The Giants, Mets, and the Yankees tied at 8, which is the average between our two scores, and the Brewers were at 7.5. They have elite pitching. They probably have the best, maybe, yeah, I would say as of right now, the best 1-2-3 punch in baseball, and they get a lot of production out of their guys at the bottom, and they've got one of the best bullpens in baseball and probably the best closer in Josh Hader. They didn't do a whole lot to get better, but what we saw from them the last season and what we've seen from them the last couple seasons is a clear division champ who's going to push teams in the playoffs. So I think 7 or 6 is a fair spot for the Brewers.
Yeah, I was going through like different power rankings just to kind of reference it. I was surprised that the Brewers I think they were at 4 in MLB's power rankings. I thought that was a little high, but yeah, the Brewers coming at 6. You kind of hit it with everything. You got some question marks with Yelich, and if Adames can perform again. I still think they're going to win the NL Central and be a playoff team again. But in terms of, I don't think they'll win 95 games like they did last season. But yeah, they're still a great team that's going to compete every year. And I think you kind of hit it everything, the great rotation, great bullpen. But yeah, and that leads us into our number 5 team in the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays. That kind of I totally just blanked.
I mean, they're the Rays. They're the Rays.
The Rays. I mean, you get a full season of Wander Franco this season. Young pitching and Shane Baz and Shane McClanahan. And their bullpen's always solid. You do lose Austin Meadows, but I do have trust in the Rays, what their methods and what they do. So I still think they're a great team. They're coming off a 100-win season and a little disappointing in the playoffs, but I think the Rays, you just can't really doubt them. You just got to put faith in them and that they're going to do well, because they always do.
Yeah, and I think people are assuming that the Rays will take a step back, but I think their roster got better. I mean, now they're going to have a full season of Wander Franco. Eventually, Shane Baz is going to come back from injury. He's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. They get Luis Patino too, who they got from the Padres in, I don't remember what trade. Maybe was it the Blake Snell trade? No. It might have been, yeah. So they got a lot of young pitching, and they've still got a lot of stars on the offensive side of the ball, which I've brought up every time I've talked about the Rays recently. And Brandon Lau, they still have Zunino, Arozarena. They've got a lot of great hitters, a lot of great pitchers. And this ranking also is they have to prove that they're not a top 5 team before we take them out of the list, because they've, for the past couple seasons now, been one of the best teams in baseball. They deserve a spot here in the top 5 at number 5. A team who also proved they deserve a spot in the top 5 was the Braves after winning the World Series last year. They've got Acuna coming back too. They have Matt Olson now, Austin Riley, full season at what he did last year. They've got a lot of pieces. They just won the World Series. I think 4 is a respectable ranking for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, the Braves, I mean, a lot of people might get blinded a little bit about that they were the rating chance. I mean, they only won 88 games. So yeah, they have a lot of momentum on this list, But in terms of being one of the best teams in baseball, I think 4 is fair. Just because, I mean, they won 88 games. I mean, they do get Acuna back now. They lose some of those Soler and Jock that were kind of key pieces on that World Series run. But I mean, you'll get Soroka back at some point. So I still think they're a great team that did probably get a little bit better this offseason with Acuna coming back and adding medals. And you do get Eddie Rosario back for an outfield position. Duvall again. Max Fried will always be solid. But I think 4 is fair for this team. And getting to our top 3 here was, I think the top 1 is probably a little obvious, but these next 2 could probably be switched on some of your lists.
And I think the top 3 separate themselves.
Oh yeah, for sure. And number 3, I mean, we got the Chicago White Sox as the third best team. And I think for me, at least, what prevented me from putting them at 2 was the injuries. I mean, to Lance Lynn, we mentioned Garrett Crochet, and you lose Kimbrel. You do add AJ Pollock, but I mean, this team's a great team, a lot of star power, and that's why we got them at number 3. They're hoping for a deep playoff run this season.
Yeah, if you remember back to the record predictions, we both had the White Sox being better than the Blue Jays. I still think by season's end, it will end up like that just because, I mean, they're playing in the Central and not the AL East. But as of right now, like you mentioned, the injuries are preventing us from putting them at 2 in the power rankings. At number 2, if you guessed correctly, it's the Blue Jays. We've talked about the Blue Jays all offseason. We've just raved about the moves they've made, raved about the team that they have. And while we had them below the White Sox in the record predictions, they were still our 2 seed. And right now they've got a lot of momentum. And if they bring in Jose Ramirez, I'll echo what I said last episode, could be my World Series favorites, probably my favorites in the AL.
Oh, they would 100% turn into my favorites in the AL, because then you turn into a team that, I mean, doesn't have a lot of experience. Yeah, you add Jose Ramirez. I mean, he had that World Series run that they fell 1 game short. So, I mean, you add some experience there. They're obviously a great team. We love the moves they made with Matt Chapman, re-signing Brios, adding Gosman, Kikuchi. So this team got a lot better, and the only knock on them is that they lack postseason experience. But I think they'll gain that experience for sure this year with the deep playoff run.
Yeah, and that doesn't factor into a preseason power rankings. Talk about postseason experience. You're going to talk about our number 1 team in the power rankings. I will let you introduce the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yep. So, I mean, it's not even biased at this point. Like, they are the undisputed number 1 team. And I think on every list, they should be the number 1 team, because just on paper and the moves they made, I mean, you did lose in the NLCS last year, so that hurts their momentum a little bit, but they still won 106 games. So, I mean, they're just on paper easily the best team in baseball. I mean, you're going to have a full season from Trey Turner now. You lose Corey Seager and you lose a big left-handed bat in Seager, and you replace him with probably a bigger left-handed bat in Freddie Freeman. You re-signed Chris Taylor, traded for Kimbrel. So, I mean, still have Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, question mark, but Gavin Lux, I think, will produce this season.
Max Muncy will come back at some point.
Will Smith again. Max Muncy's coming back. Still one of the, I'd say probably a top 5 bullpen in the MLB. And I mean, they probably need one more starter to be World Series like locks, I'd say. And I mean, you can't really lock any team as World Series, but Dodgers, I mean, can't say enough about their roster. They're just a great team, and hopefully another World Series run in them.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be preseason power rankings number 1, but that doesn't mean they're going to go win the World Series. And like you said, you can't lock a World Series, but moving out of power rankings, one thing that we're going to try and lock is some series every single week. The idea that we had for this is, if you remember the NFL show, if you follow along to what we do picks every week. What we can do for baseball, because we don't want to pick every game. Each team plays 162, so that would be kind of difficult. But we're going to try and lock in some series each week. We're going to give these to you once a week. This week, it's just going to go for the opening day series, but normally it'll go for the entire week before we do it in next week's episode. But we're going to try and pick a couple series, minimum of 1, maximum of 5 of series that we think are locks, that you can book it, you can lock it, don't look, and then you're going to come back and
take it to the bank.
Yeah, take it to the bank. It's a clear bet. It's an easy win. That's what we're thinking. But we will probably be wrong at some point. We're going to try and do our best to go 100%, but there's going to be point systems as well, which I'll let Ryan explain, and could be some punishments as well if we mess up a little too much.
Yeah. So the way the points are going to work, we're going to come back to this at the end, where we're going to keep score for each of us. You get 1 point for a correctly picked series, -1 for incorrectly. And I think we're going to go with 2 points, or should we go 1.5 if it's a sweep?
I say, maybe let's go point and a half.
All right. So you get a 1.5 for a sweep, -1 if you're wrong, like I said. And we're going to have a little punishment on your week. If you go under 500, like, so say Jack went over 500, I'm going to pick out a few punishments and have you guys as the fans vote on them, and he'll have to perform that punishment.
Here's what I think we do. Instead of you like getting to pick, because it's going to have to be before the next episode, I think we both sit down and we each choose one that, like, when we say, okay, the next time someone goes over 500, the fans will vote between these two. And so you could be hit with your own punishment as well. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay, that's what we'll go with. So that then you guys as the fans will vote on our punishment, and we'll do that within reason at our next episode. And I think that'll be fun. After this week, we'll have some segments where we come back to it on the show, but we'll have some weeks where the locks are just on our Instagram. So make sure you go and follow that and let us know on our posts. Let us know what your locks are and if you like ours. But I think we kind of covered everything in terms of the rules and how this is going to work. And Jack, you want to get into your locks for this opening series first?
Yeah, I will say also we're open to any ideas on the topic. And especially if you guys want to pitch us some punishment ideas, we'd be happy to hear them, as long as they're not a little too risque or mean for YouTube. But you'll be able to vote on those ideas. Hopefully we never have to face a punishment. Hopefully I never have to face a punishment. I'd love to see you do it.
Have to always face the punishments.
But you guys can vote on those. We'll do Instagram story polls, we'll do Twitter polls, we'll do polls here on YouTube and our community tab as well. So just go down to the description, make sure you're following us on all the socials, and we'll get into that. But we each have 3 this week. Like I said, minimum of 1, maximum of 5. And this is only for the opening day series. But my first one is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays over the Orioles. Like I mentioned, the Rays are a top 5 team. Even if you doubt their roster, they always produce, and they're facing our 29th team in baseball in the Orioles. And the Orioles, while I think that they could have some better pitching towards the end of the year if they bring up a guy like Grayson Rodriguez, right now it's John Means and everybody else. And the Rays, I think almost at full strength, I think they are a lock to beat the Orioles in the series.
My number 1 lock is the Phillies over the A's. The A's were number 30. The Phillies, I mean, you have Nola. It's not a guarantee that Wheeler's, I guess he's day to day. But I mean, the offense, I think, is going to carry them. You got Frankie Montas versus Nola. I'll give the advantage to Nola there. And then the rest of the A's rotation doesn't matter. I'll give the advantage to the Phillies there and the Phillies offense. So yeah, for my first lock, I've got the Phillies winning the series over the A's.
My second lock of the week is an NL West rivalry. It's the Dodgers and the Rockies. It's being played in Coors, and that was the only thing that made me a little bit hesitant, but I think the Dodgers are built to win in Coors more than the Rockies are. I think you're going to see them launch a lot of home runs. It wouldn't surprise me if Freddie Freeman hits 1 or 2 in the series, and just the Rockies pitching just does not match up with the frontline starters for the Dodgers. You're going to get Buehler, you're going to get Urias. That's pretty much a lock on its own.
Yeah, the only thing that kept me off the Dodgers, I mean, I've been watching a lot of spring training games. I mean, spring training doesn't mean much, but I mean, I just want to see what happens in the regular season. They struggled in the spring, so I didn't want to pick them as a lock right out the gate. I just want to see what they do for a week or so before I throw my faith in them for locks. But my number 2 was I have the Padres over the D-backs. The Padres just about have a full strength starting rotation, and the D-backs are just bad. And I mean, Bumgarner's a starter. Maybe Zach Gallen will appear in there, but I take, even without Tatis, I got the Padres as a lock over the Diamondbacks.
And we both have the third lock. It's the the Toronto Blue Jays over the Rangers. It's going to be opening day in Canada. I don't think that there's going to be a more exciting season for Toronto in a long time. Like, they're really excited and pumped up to see this Blue Jays team play. They're going to
get a full season of them in Toronto.
Yeah, they're going to come out in droves. And the Rangers they don't match up. Like I said, same thing with the Dodgers. Like, the front line of the Blue Jays rotation is its strength. You're going to get Barrios and Gosman, and I think that they're going to shut down the Rangers in Canada. It's going to be hype, and I think they are a lock to beat the Rangers in the series.
Yep, and like you said, I've got them as well. You said enough about that. And those are our 3 locks for the week. We'll come back come back to this. We'll keep score all the time. It'll be on our Instagram for sure, and sometimes back in the episode. But like we said, make sure you follow on the Instagram so you don't miss any of that. And we've got some other exclusive content on there as well as our other socials that you'll definitely want to check out. And I think that kind of wraps up everything we had for today.
I'm rooting for the A's and the D-backs this week, so I can make you freestyle rap your picks next week.
The Dodgers over the, I don't know who they're playing. Reds.
Yeah. Are they playing the Reds?
The weekend series next week.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hopefully you got a freestyle rap that whole thing. Let us know if you guys have any funny punishment ideas. We're really excited for this segment. It'll probably be a weekly thing. Like Ryan mentioned, socials down in the description. Ryan, this is our last episode before opening day. You got any bold predictions? Anything like what are you going to be doing for opening day? Dodgers first game's not till Friday, unfortunately. Same with the Giants, but you excited for this weekend? What's your plan?
Thursday night, I will be partying it up in my room, watching some baseball. This weekend, I'm actually going to be out of town in Houston for club baseball again. So hopefully I can catch the Dodgers games. I will do everything in my power to watch the games. But I'm just excited baseball is back. Bold predictions. I think I got them all on the prediction show, but not so bold. The Dodgers are going to win it all, like Dave Roberts said. And I'll throw in another bold prediction. The Blue Jays win the AL.
I like that.
Not very
I like
bold,
it.
but
yeah, I was kind of thinking. So the Giants don't play till Friday, which is kind of unfortunate. But gonna sit down, gonna turn on MLB Network, watch as many of the Thursday games as I can, and then try and catch the Giants game on the radio because it won't be on TV here in the dorms. Try and get it on stream. I don't know if MLB TV will continue their free games of the week. Fingers crossed. If not, I might try and you know what? I'm not going to say that on air because it might be illegal, but I'm going to try and watch the game. And I'm excited just to see Giants baseball, see MLB baseball again. Super, super, super excited.
Yeah, me as well. And I think that's all we got. We're very excited for baseball. I hope you guys are too. And we can help you bring you baseball content all season long. So make sure you're subscribed. And I guess I kind of started the outro there, but Jack, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So like we said, all episode, socials in the description. If you're on YouTube, please consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button, leaving a comment about anything we talked about in this episode. Who's your top guy in the power rankings? Who's your bottom team in the power rankings? And what ideas do you have for series locks of the week? And who do you think is a series lock? Is it one of ours? Is it one of the ones that we did not mention? Please let us know. Also hit the notification bell. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please consider rating the show 5 stars and following along so you get notified for every episode that we have. That's kind of all we got for you guys. Enjoy opening day. Enjoy your team's first series. Sorry if we put them low in the power rankings. We'll try and comfort you and talk well about them at some point in the season. But if you're an A's fan, an Orioles fan, any of those teams at the bottom, it might not be all that likely. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoy the first weekend of baseball, and we'll be back next week to wrap it up and recap it. So thank you guys for listening. We've been the Double Play Podcast, and we will see you guys next time.